In the previous video of DNA replication, we had seen that how replication bubble forms. We had seen that there is one site that is known as Ori site on DNA. Ori site of DNA, it binds with certain proteins which recognize Ori site and makes up a formation of replication bubbles. So Ori site is on the DNA and these proteins are there. For E. coli, that protein is DNA A protein. DNA A protein. This DNA A protein causes the localized untwisting or separation of double stranded DNA. Localized separation of double stranded DNA and causes a replication, this replication bubble formation. And its action is ATP dependent. It requires ATP as a source of energy. Now, once this thing happens, there is little fork-like structure is formed. Here you can see V-like structure is there. Here also V-like structure is there. So this is the active site for the DNA replication. Okay, this is the active site for the DNA replication. So now DNA replication moves into this direction on this side and on this direction on this side. So we can say the DNA replication is a bidirectional. Why bidirectional? Because it from the replication bubble it moves on both the direction. Okay, so whatever process happens over here, the same process happens over here. So what I'm going to do is we will focus only on this part. Okay, you can focus any of the part, either this or this part. At both the side process is going to be a same. So let's focus onto this part. So we have certain native DNA, that is double stranded DNA, which is hydrogen bonded, right? And then we have this replication fork. We know that replication fork is formed by the binding of DNA A protein. This is DNA A protein. Now, once this DNA A protein has initiated the separation of double stranded DNA, like this single stranded DNA, there is one more enzyme is there. This, remember, DNA A protein is enzyme. Okay, it requires ATP. The second enzyme is the DNA helicase. So this is DNA helicase enzyme. DNA helicase enzyme. And if this DNA helicase, this name is a generic name. For example, in E. coli, the specific enzyme is DNA B protein. DNA B protein. This DNA B protein is the DNA helicase of the E. coli. Okay, if you want to describe all the species together, you can say DNA helicase enzyme. But in case of E. coli, the specific name is given, that is DNA B protein. This DNA B protein itself is not able to bind with the single stranded DNA. Remember, this helicase has to bind with the single stranded DNA. Then only it can do its work. This DNA B protein cannot directly bind with this single stranded DNA. So what it will first do, it first makes up a complex with DNA C protein. DNA C protein. Once this DNA B and DNA C both are bound with each other, then only it's a complete assembly of DNA helicase enzyme which is able to bind with the single stranded DNA. Remember, DNA helicase enzyme, it never binds with the double stranded DNA molecule. Now, what is the function of this enzyme? This enzyme will break down these hydrogen bonds. It will start moving and it will go on breaking these hydrogen bonds. So what will happen? If you give this enzyme some time, then it will start moving into this direction. And if so, we redraw this diagram and let's assume that this enzyme has moved up to this point. Then your DNA will look like this. There is a widening of the replication fork. Widening of the replication fork, and now it has traveled, this helicase enzyme has traveled up to this far. This is the location of DNA helicase. Then these are the unbroken hydrogen bond. This helicase will start traveling, and so there is a widening of the replication fork will go on, and of course DNA proteins are there. Now, as DNA helicase moves into this direction, there are certain problems are created. What are these problems? The first thing, that we had created single stranded DNA. This is a single stranded DNA. Now, this single stranded DNA is a risky one. Why risky one? Because in our nucleus, in the organism's nucleus or in the cytoplasm, there are enzymes that are known as nucleases. This nucleases will immediately identify the single stranded DNA and immediately breaks it down. So it will be, the single stranded DNA can be immediately destroyed. We don't want that. Nature don't want that this single stranded DNA should be destroyed. Why? Because the replication is yet to occur. It is not occurred yet. This should not be destroyed. Even after replication, this single stranded DNA should never be destroyed. So how nature had prevented this nucleus from acting on the single stranded DNA? So there is third type of protein that is known as single stranded DNA binding protein. So these are the multiple units of the single stranded DNA binding protein. That is, these proteins are single stranded DNA binding proteins. Proteins. Its short form is SSB proteins. So single stranded binding proteins. So SSB proteins. These are not enzyme. And their action is also not ATP dependent. Not ATP dependent. Their simply function is they bind with the single stranded DNA. So what will happen now, once this single stranded DNA is bound with the SSB proteins, what will happen, this nuclease will not able to act on the single stranded DNA. So the first function of the single stranded DNA is to prevent attack of nuclease on the single stranded DNA. The second is that it also prevent re-annealing, but re-base pairing of this both single stranded. It prevents it. The single stranded DNA binding protein will prevent this rebinding of this both the strand. Okay, so it helps to maintain or maintains single stranded DNA, right? So these are the two important problems, and they are being solved by this single stranded DNA binding proteins. I forgot to tell you one thing, that this helicase, its action is also ATP dependent. So let's draw very small and neat diagram. So this is double stranded DNA. These are the two separated chains. These are the single stranded DNA. We have this DNA A protein. Here we have helicase, which acts like unzipper. This is helicase, or you can say a complex of DNA B and DNA C protein, and then we have single stranded DNA binding protein or SSB proteins. These are the SSB proteins. So in this complex, we have one DNA. This is a replication fork. So we have replication fork plus three proteins. One is DNA A, second one is helicase, and third is SSB protein plus three proteins. This complete complex is known as pre-priming complex. It is known as pre-priming complex. Now, there is still one problem is there that is yet to address. If you look carefully, you can see that in this case DNA helicase enzyme, as it is moving over here, so what will happen? There will be an increased number of turns in such a small distance. Remember, I drawn these parallel lines of the DNA, but actually we know that DNA is a double helix. It's a twisted. DNA is twisted on the imaginary central axis, and this is the replication fork. So as this helicase enzyme moves in this direction, what will happen? All these turns, this turn, will start accumulating in this part. So ultimately it will look like this. There will be a tight turns. Okay, when this moves further inwards, there will be a looping of DNA. Okay, so DNA will twist on itself like this. Here the replication fork. Now because of this tight constraint, your DNA helicase will not able to move into this direction. So somehow this supercoiling, this is known as supercoiling. This supercoiling creates a problem. Why? Because now DNA helicase cannot move forward, because DNA now it is so tightly packed that DNA helicase cannot enter into that location. This is known as supercoiling. Now supercoiling it can be of two types. It may be a positive supercoiling or it may be a negative supercoiling. In our case, this type of coiling, it is a positive supercoiling. The definition of positive supercoiling is that when there is an increased number of turns, it is known as supercoiling. When there is a decreased number of turns, it is known as negative supercoiling. Let's say for example, if suppose this much length ideally should contain 10 turns, but you add one more turn into that, then we can say it is a positive supercoiling. So here normally it contains 10 turns, so you add 1 turn, so total turns are 11 turns, right? So it's a positive supercoiling. But if you remove 1 turn, if you do minus 1 turn, so you will have a 9 turns, and that is known as the remaining, then the product will be known as negative supercoiled product or negative supercoiling. I hope positive and negative supercoiling is clear to you. Okay, now how our biological system solves the problem of this supercoiling? So there is one set of enzyme, one family of enzyme, which is known as DNA topoisomerases. This is a group of enzyme which will help in either preventing positive supercoiling or negative supercoiling. So let's study about DNA topoisomerases first, then we will talk about DNA replication further. So DNA topoisomerases are basically of two types. One is type 1, second is type 2. The type 1 DNA topoisomerases, they don't require ATP. No ATPs are required for the action of this type 1 topoisomerases. For the type 2 topoisomerases, ATPs are required, they require energy. This type 1 topoisomerases, they cut only one strand, whereas type 2 topoisomerases cut both the strands both the strands of DNA. Remember, whenever the coilings are increased, like in this case, as we have seen, there is an increased coiling. What will happen? You have two options: either cut one strand, suppose this is the positive supercoil, so you can cut one strand and then let it relieve its torsion and then once again bind it. You can solve the problem of positive as well as negative supercoiling. Okay, and there is another way that you cut both the strand, let the both the end to relieve its strain, and then the supercoiling problem can be solved. So both strategy are followed by our biological system, that is, by the type 1 only one strand is cut, and by the type 2 topoisomerases both the strands of DNA are cut. Now let's focus on type 1 topoisomerases. Now what these type 1 topoisomerases do, suppose we have this much done. So first it will cut this single strand of DNA. So it cut only one strand of DNA. Then what will happen? Once it cut the one stranded DNA, we can call it as a nuclease activity, right? It is nuclease activity. Whatever enzyme, whichever enzyme which can cut the DNA, we can say it has nuclease activity. So once it cut the strand, what will happen? The energy relieved from the breaking down of this chain, that is phosphodiester bond, it is stored in this type 1 topoisomerases. So it had untwisted. So what will happen? Now the torsion is relieved and this DNA which is cut over here needs to rebind with each other, and the second action is also carried out by this type 1 topoisomerases. So it has ligase activity also. So remember, type 1 DNA topoisomerase has nuclease activity as well as ligase activity. Similarly, in case of type 2 DNA topoisomerases, suppose this is supercoiling, so it will cut both the strand, let the strand relieve itself, and then again ligates it. So this type 2 isomerase also has nuclease activity as well as ligase activity. Now let's say in case of prokaryotes, this type 1 topoisomerases relieves or relaxes negative supercoils. Relaxes negative supercoils. Whereas in case of eukaryotes, it relaxes both positive as well as negative supercoils. In case of type 2 DNA topoisomerases, it relieves or it relaxes both positive and negative supercoils in both eukaryotes as well as prokaryote. But in addition to this, it has one more activity, that in certain plants or in certain bacteria, this type 2 topoisomerases can introduce negative supercoiling. So what is the advantage of introducing negative supercoiling in any DNA? So remember, whenever negative supercoiling is added, that means it is a good, or it is easier for the DNA to separate or to convert it into the single stranded DNA. So we can say that this introduction of negative supercoiling in the plants and bacteria, it seems that this facilitates the future DNA replication. Why? Because the negative supercoils neutralizes the positive supercoils introduced during the opening of the double helix. So that is the advantage in certain plants and bacteria. One more special aspect of this DNA topoisomerase type 2, which is found in special cases in plants and bacteria, which is able to introduce negative supercoiling, it has been given one separate name, that is DNA gyrase. This DNA gyrase enzyme, this bacterial DNA gyrase, is actually a unique target for certain pharmacological agent. Certain drugs are there which can inhibit this DNA gyrase. Those drugs, it is a group of drug, it is known as quinolones. One popular example of this quinolone group drug is the ciprofloxacin. So how this ciprofloxacin acts? Ciprofloxacin inhibits this DNA gyrase. So it cannot carry out introduction of negative supercoiling, plus it cannot also relax positive or negative supercoiling. So what will happen? The replication of this bacteria is stopped. So this ciprofloxacin acts as an antibiotic. How antibiotic? Because it can inhibit the growth of bacteria. Okay. So this ciprofloxacin, this is the mechanism of action by inhibiting DNA gyrase. There is one more anti-cancer drug which is known as etoposide. This is the anti-cancer drug. It also targets human topoisomerase 2, type 2, right? Human topoisomerase type 2. This etoposide inhibits human topoisomerase type 2. So what will happen? The cancer cell which are rapidly dividing, so it will have a more and more requirement of this enzyme. So once we give such patient a etoposide drug, what will happen? This cancer cell, that rapid division is converted to slow division or no division at all. Okay, so in the cancer, the main problem is rapid cell division, and that we can stop by this drug, that is etoposide. So this is all about today's lecture. If you have any query or confusion, please write it down in the comment section below. Thank you.